Ah, yeah, how is he? How is the doctor?
And smoking, that's another one. Try to stop smoking.
A comedian walks onto the most famous couch in television history, and within 30 seconds, the entire studio audience is out of control. No gimmicks, no props, no shock value. Just one man, a loosened tie, and a lifetime of bad luck turned into pure gold. If you have never seen Rodney Dangerfield destroy Johnny Carson's audience, you are about to understand why people still talk about these appearances decades later. This is not a normal celebrity interview. This is a masterclass in timing, rhythm, and self-destruction used as a weapon. Stick around until the end, because the moment where the crowd completely loses control is unlike anything you have seen from a late-night show.
Best showbiz is rough, though. You know
Is it
that,
really?
Johnny. Sure. That's why.
Rodney Dangerfield did not walk out looking like a star. He walked out looking like a man who had already lost. Tired eyes, a nervous energy, a suit that seemed to be fighting him the entire time. And that was the entire point. Before he said a single word, his presence told the audience exactly what kind of night they were in for. Johnny Carson barely had to ask a question. He would toss out one simple line, almost like flipping a switch, and Rodney would take off running. The genius was never really in the setup.
Kid. Oh, he's a mean kid.
Mean, huh?
Well, he put crazy glue.
It was in how fast Rodney could turn an innocent topic into a spiral of misfortune, each line landing harder than the one before it. He opened by talking about his own childhood, and within seconds the room understood the tone for the entire set. This was not going to be a polished, safe celebrity chat. This was going to be a man confessing, exaggerating, and mocking his own life with a straight face, refusing to ever let the audience see him break character. What made it work was the delivery. He never smiled during the punchlines. He never celebrated his own jokes. He would tug at his collar, shift his eyes, mutter under his breath, and somehow that discomfort made every single line land twice as hard.
Too, when I grew up.
Yeah.
I couldn't get dates with girls.
Girls didn't?
Comedy usually invites the audience to laugh with the performer. Rodney invited them to laugh at his own personal disaster, and somehow that felt more honest than anything else on television at the time. From there, things escalated into stories about family life that most performers would never dare to touch on network television. He talked about a rough relationship with his parents, and instead of asking for sympathy, he twisted every detail into something absurd. The audience was laughing before they even realized how dark some of the material actually was, because Rodney delivered it with such casual defeat that it stopped feeling personal and started feeling universal. Everyone in that room had some version of a complicated family, and Rodney gave them permission to laugh at the whole idea of it.
Well, I don't want to overdo my welcome.
Then came a stretch of material about romance, or more accurately, the complete absence of it. Rodney built an entire persona around being the least desirable man on the planet, and he committed to that bit with total conviction. Every date he described somehow went worse than the last. Every woman he mentioned came with some exaggerated flaw that escalated the joke further and further, until the descriptions became so over the top that logic stopped matching and the room was simply reacting to the absurdity of the exaggeration itself. Carson knew exactly how to work with this energy. He rarely interrupted. He mostly just reacted, letting his own facial expressions do the heavy lifting, occasionally tossing in a short question that gave Rodney just enough room to twist the knife one more time. Watching the two of them together, you can see a rhythm that only comes from years of chemistry.
Aren't you?
I'm going to play Framingham, man.
Yeah, and Chateau de Ville.
Carson trusted Rodney completely to carry the moment, and Rodney trusted Carson to give him the space to do it. The material about his own family life stayed consistent throughout the entire set. Every mention of his wife, his kids, or his home life came back around to the same core idea, that nothing in his world ever worked out the way it was supposed to. He was not painting himself as a victim exactly. He was painting himself as a man who had simply accepted that misfortune was his permanent condition, and there was something strangely comforting about how calmly he accepted it. At one point, the topic shifted to money and struggle, and this section hit differently than the rest. Instead of exaggerated absurdity, there was something almost believable underneath the jokes about being broke.
Out of Boston now, pardon me. And I'll be there August.
The laughs still came fast, but there was a flicker of real vulnerability buried inside every line, the kind of detail that makes an audience feel like they are laughing at truth dressed up as comedy rather than pure fiction. Then, without warning, the entire tone of the appearance shifted into something almost theatrical. Rodney appeared without his signature look, breaking his own routine in front of everyone, and the crowd reacted instantly. It did not matter that the change was small. Because audiences had grown so familiar with his exact presentation, even the smallest deviation became its own punchline before he said a single word about it. Carson played along perfectly, treating the moment like an actual crisis, which only made the audience laugh harder.
Out here, Mr. Mason, nice to you. Ed, how are you? Good.
Well, what's new in your life?
From there, Rodney moved into a section where he jumped from topic to topic at an almost dizzying pace. Health, age, daily habits, whatever popped into his head became fair game, and he refused to slow down long enough for the audience to catch their breath.
May 22nd.
One thought triggered another, which triggered another, creating a chain reaction of jokes that built on top of each other rather than existing as separate bits. This is where his skill as a performer became most obvious. Most comedians need structure. Rodney thrived without it, riding pure instinct and momentum. As the segment continued, something remarkable started happening in the room. The audience response began feeding directly into Rodney's performance. The bigger the laughs got, the faster and more intense his delivery became, almost like he was drawing energy straight from the crowd and pouring it back into every new line. This is the part people still talk about. It stopped feeling like a scripted interview segment and started feeling like a live wire, unpredictable and completely alive. You could see it in his body language. The nervous energy that opened the set turned into something almost frantic. He wiped his forehead, adjusted his tie again and again, and leaned into the chaos instead of trying to control it. Carson, meanwhile, sat back and let it happen, occasionally cracking up so hard that he had trouble finishing his own sentences. Watching the host lose composure only pushed the crowd even further.
Never.
Really?
As a kid, I never got the breaks either, never.
This has been following.
By the time the material shifted towards stories about traveling and nightlife, the energy in the room had reached a different level entirely. Every character Rodney described sounded larger than life, every location sounded more chaotic than the last, and the exaggeration reached a point where reality and performance completely blurred together. It felt less like storytelling and more like watching someone build an entire fictional universe made entirely out of bad luck, one absurd character at a time. What separates this appearance from a typical talk show segment is how sustained the intensity became. There was no clear peak and valley. Once the crowd locked in, Rodney simply kept climbing, refusing to give them a moment to reset. By the final stretch, he was nearly out of breath, visibly exhausted from the sheer physical effort of keeping that pace alive for as long as he did.
Good stuff, huh?
That's now, you gotta have the right attitude. Attitude is the whole
of course.
thing. That's
And that is really the secret behind why this clip still gets shared decades later. It was not one perfect joke. It was the accumulation of dozens of smaller moments stacked on top of each other until the entire thing became something bigger than comedy. It became a genuine live event, captured by accident on a television show that was never designed to hold something this explosive. Modern comedy often relies on production value, editing, and carefully controlled pacing. What makes this moment stand apart is the complete absence of any of that. No cuts, no retakes, no safety net. Just one performer, one host, and a room full of people who had no idea what they were walking into that night. If you strip away the era and the black and white feel of the footage, the core lesson still applies to comedy today. Vulnerability delivered with confidence is funnier than any perfectly polished joke. Rodney never hid his insecurities. He weaponized them, turned them into an entire persona, and made an audience fall in love with a man who insisted nobody respected him. That contradiction is exactly why it worked. The more he complained about being overlooked, the more attention he commanded. The more pathetic his stories sounded, the more the crowd adored him. It is one of the rare examples in entertainment history where the joke and the truth behind the joke became almost impossible to separate. So here's the real question for you. After watching how this energy built minute by minute, which section do you think hit the hardest? Was it the slow burn at the beginning, the theatrical wardrobe moment, or the unstoppable momentum near the end when the entire room completely lost control? Drop your answer in the comments, because these clips deserve to be talked about, dissected, and remembered properly, not just watched once and forgotten.
One of my phobias. Great segue to get him out here, right?
If this breakdown gave you a new appreciation for what made this performance so unforgettable, make sure you are subscribed, because there are far more legendary talk show moments like this one waiting to be unpacked, one unforgettable minute at a time.